Hey guys, it's Captain Harris. Welcome back to the channel. So James and I recently returned home from our trip to Europe to see the Run for Your Lives tour, which was Iron Maiden's latest run of shows celebrating 50 years of being a band. After 5 shows and much time to analyze our feelings, I think I'm ready to share my thoughts with you guys. I know a lot of you have been asking, and I do apologize for not giving more in-depth analysis in the vlogs, but I just didn't feel like it would have been appropriate to do so on them this year.
And we didn't want to unload all of our thoughts during our trip because we wanted to experience it from multiple spots in the venues and see how things progressed with the show as time went on. But during the trip, we were also in deep discussion with several Maiden fans and friends, and it helped shape our view as a whole.
So I do want to get this out of the way and say it up front. There's going to be some divisive points brought up in this video, and if you've yet to see this tour, if you have tickets to go see them, any of that, and don't want anything spoiled for you, I would recommend that you skip this video right now. This tour wasn't for me personally, but that doesn't mean it won't blow your mind. Witness it for yourself, and then return for a discussion. We genuinely did have so much fun traveling with our friends, and I did still have a good time at most of the shows we attended. At the end of the day, I'm always immensely grateful for the time I get to spend with our Iron Maiden family, and every year is truly a blessing to experience the band at this point.
And we understand that a lot of these opinions will be controversial and many fans will strongly disagree. This video is not attempting to convince you of any particular view. It's become apparent that the Captain Harris channel is not necessarily a Maiden channel, but a channel following our experiences and passion for Iron Maiden through the years.
So, personally, I had pretty complex feelings about this tour from the beginning. If you go back and watch our video on the announcement, I did express feelings of disappointment that a 50 years tour wouldn't span the majority of the band's career. I didn't expect songs off of every album, as that obviously would have been too difficult with the way they construct setlists, but something Legacy of the Beast-esque with songs from each era being included.
Now, we certainly expected a history tour for the 50th anniversary, but when it became clear it was another 80s retro tour, it felt like they were communicating that after their whole career up to this point, the only things that really matter are the hits we wrote in the 80s. I always felt that they had a second golden age in the 2000s that deserves its place in a 50-year celebration.
Following the tour announcement, Nico announced his departure abruptly at the end of the Future Past tour, which was clearly understandable, and was a decision he made prior to that final show, but it still hit me very hard for that reason, especially when the band didn't really hesitate to announce a replacement for him in no time flat. And when this happened, I started to get a little bit nervous about what this tour would be like.
I had a feeling during the Future Past tour that it would be the last go-around with Nico, and it felt somewhat conclusive to their career, having finished covering all the 80s albums in retro form, finally pulling out Alexander after decades of fan requests, plus covering new material at the same time with a great-looking and fun stage show. It felt like whatever happens after this is like extra bonus features after the feature film.
So a week or so before the opening night last month, a photo leaked onto the forum of the stage being set up, and it showed that it was all compromised completely by screens. My two biggest concerns for this were 1, that they would digitize the Big Eddie, and 2, that generative AI would be used in some form. I wanted to be positive about the tour because Iron Maiden have never once disappointed me on a tour level in the past, and I wanted to trust that they knew what they were doing, especially since the production had been hyped up since the announcement. I still anticipated physical aspects of this stage production that would rival what they've done in the past.
We were certainly expecting some big songs to make a return, so we, as well as many other fans, ran wild with speculation on what they could do with these songs, knowing everything they must have learned on the Legacy tour. We were ready to be truly wowed with the ultimate version of these classic Maiden songs.
Yeah. So, Budapest rolled around, and once we got together with friends and rumors started flying, I was able to put some of my qualms aside. Several people had actually heard that someone else had heard that Seventh Son was...
Someone else had heard.
Yes, basically. Went down the grapevine that somebody had heard Seventh Son being rehearsed outside the venue, similarly to how we heard some stuff outside of the venue in Ljubljana and were freaking out. So I knew that was pretty plausible, and that really excited me. And then seeing the merch included the Mariner ship mast and stuff busting out of the venue, that pretty much confirmed that song was going to be in the set list, and it was shaping up to be a pretty historic night.
Yeah. On top of that, we had been talking with fans for most of the day, and excitement to hear very rare songs was thick in the air.
Yeah.
Infinite Dreams, To Tame a Land, Be Quick or Be Dead, Tail Gunner.
How about Die With Your Boots On? Like, everybody thought, oh, because of the Fill Your Boots bit, people were talking heavily about that one, too.
Now, while this doesn't necessarily apply to us, there was a genuine expectation from fans that there would be songs pulled out for the first time since back in the day, as every retro tour in the past has delivered on that fact.
I mean, technically, the 90s is back in the day.
At this point, Final Frontier is back in the day.
So we ended up choosing a spot near the soundboard. They had like the soundboard here, so you saw from our videos, and then they had these 2 barricades at the side. You could go around them. It wasn't like split floor, but we just chose that. It seemed like a good spot. And I just wanted to see the whole production and try not to miss anything because, you know, again, the hype around this tour was really big, and I wanted to see what they did. And unfortunately, that first night ended up leaving me with a series of complex emotions.
You do say, or you don't say.
I do say.
You do say.
I did speak pretty in depth about our thoughts throughout that first night in the vlog for that show, so I will refrain from doing a song-by-song analysis here since I feel like I've kind of already done that in a way. Even though my feelings have evolved since then, but...
It's gotten worse.
Well, not necessarily, but I feel like I understand why I felt the way I did that first night. So to speak first on the set list, I didn't have a problem with it. It seems like reading on social media and stuff, everybody's biggest issue with this tour was the set list and the fact that they didn't play anything from No Prayer. The encore was predictable, yeah, and I don't really understand why we keep closing with Wasted Years. But it was all pretty much what I expected them to play, and I think it was something like 13 songs, something like that they had done previously on Somewhere Back in Time, which covered the same time period of the band.
And I would say that it seems like a huge chunk of Maiden fans as a whole, the only thing that matters as far as seeing the band is what they're playing on the set list, not the show, not the sound, just are they playing Fear of the Dark? Are they playing?
Yeah, so I actually got together with my dad yesterday for Father's Day, and that was the first time we'd seen him since we came back, and, you know, he's like, oh, you know, I read your review on Facebook, it doesn't seem like you liked it very much. I'm like, oh, you know, I know we got into, like, the same stuff I will get into, and he's like, I don't know, man, I thought the screens were great, and I was so excited they played those 2 songs. I'm like, oh, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, yeah, but, like, what's the other song? He's like, Fear the Dark. I'm like, Dad, they play that every tour.
When did Fear of the Dark become such a giant hit?
Yeah, so I thought that was funny.
Please answer that.
I thought that was funny. I'm like, this is like most fans going to the shows, and I understand that. They're just like, oh my god, Fear of the Dark.
I bet Yannick's super happy, though.
Yeah.
I think it's clear that the idea was to do Somewhere Back in Time again with a splash of early days and Made in England, basically a retro tour based on the retro tours.
Yeah. And I feel like, again, the biggest gripe I've seen from people online about this tour was that there's no songs from No Prayer for the Dying, which is a totally fair criticism to have. It's just not an issue that I felt myself, and though most of the songs were played on Somewhere Back in Time, it still felt like it was pretty ambitious to play as many big songs as they did. They had Mariner, Power Slave, Seventh Son, and Phantom in one set list, and that's undeniably ballsy.
I also know that it's been 20 years since the early days tour at this point, and 16 years since Somewhere Back in Time, so there is certainly a new generation again that wants to hear these songs for the first time. For people that are maybe seeing Maiden for the first time in 2025, I'm sure this is a home run of a set list for them.
I mean, neither of us saw those 2 tours either.
Exactly, so we are seeing Rime for the first time. And
Killers and Murders and...
Yeah.
Not Seventh Son.
Not Seventh Son, we have seen that.
Yeah, there's very few songs in that set list that we hadn't seen, but the ones that we hadn't were mostly cool.
Yeah. And again, with No Prayer, I didn't really mind if they didn't play a song, but now looking at what they did play, I kind of wish they did.
Yeah, because I mean, like, that's like probably rivals Virtual 11 for my least favorite album. So you know, it was just kind of like, it would have been cool, I guess, to have the variety.
If I could go back and change things now, I would say yes, they should have done a no prayer song.
Yeah, not Tail Gunner opening. That's the only thing that I was terrified about. I'm like, that is not a set opening song for a 50th anniversary. If they wanted to do it in the encore, by all means. So let's move on to the thing that I noticed the earliest in a tour. Like, this was my first thing that was like,
earth-shattering.
And that was the production. The first 3 songs actually came across pretty well, and I wish that presentation had set a standard for the rest of the night. You start by having Ides of March playing as you're taken on a journey through the streets of London. You're passing loads of Maiden references, such as the Ruskin Arms and 22 Acacia Avenue, and then the Murders intro played, and it lit up a Killer's Eddie on the Wall. And then it rose up to reveal, like, this really in-depth, dynamic, like, dark Paris background with, like, twinkling lights and stuff like that. It was, like, not tons of movement, but it was just, like, it was, like, mildly animated. Hello. And Wrathchild and Killers had graphics of the same vein on the screen. It was very gritty and very Maiden. And Phantom is where things took a turn that I didn't expect. And the graphics on screen started to feel a bit disjointed. I really did feel like those first 3 songs were setting a standard for the rest of the show, and it didn't feel like it continued after Killers.
It felt like the first 3 songs really had a lot of thought put into it, and it built Maiden's world behind them very well on a high level. And when we get to Phantom, it simply looked like an old video game lobby graphic where you select your difficulty.
Yeah.
It was the first time I felt like I'm not at a Maiden show.
Yeah.
I think using the Phantom artwork from the Run to the Hills live single of Eddie on the Mountain would have fit much
with
better.
Big Organ.
Because I don't know what it was.
I think it was just weird to go from 3 songs that so heavily used, like, that intro going through London. It was all Maiden references, and then it was like, yeah, the Paris thing wasn't Maiden, but you saw the Killers Eddie, and it rose up and showed you Paris. There was such a mix of, like, non-Maiden video stills with slightly animated bits, to full Maiden graphic stills, to whole music videos on songs like Number the Beast and Aces High, which personally I found really distracting. And it just didn't feel like it was all meant for the same stage show. Like, you know, normally everything feels pretty cohesive. Mm-hmm. It just felt a bit, again, disjointed. And from afar, James described it as watching the show on a giant iPad. And for us, the band just totally got lost in the screens because of that. My 2 favorite moments from the stage set beyond the opening bit would have been Trooper, as they didn't try to animate the Eddie. It was like him in the middle, and there was like some embers and stuff going up, which, you know, it was just something nice and subtle. And then it was as if there was like burnt paper on the sides, and then right next to him was bits of the music video playing, kind of like how they did on the Future Past tour. And very like home, if you get my drift, like very familiar to the standard Maiden set.
There's nothing more familiar than the Trooper.
Well, you know what I mean, as far as like they always have like the 2 little towers, whether it's like an actual structure, the screens, like I say, did not Made in England.
It was basically like Future Past when they did Trooper.
That and Wasted Years, despite my gripe on its position in the set, was also outstanding. I love the vibrant control panel on their riser screens, and I thought it was the best version of bringing any of their album artwork to life during the show.
I'm a bit torn on how Power Slave looks.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it is classic Maiden artwork, and it moves very slowly so as to not be too distracting. And I appreciate the burst of pyro at the beginning and the classic fire pit that nearly blinds you as Bruce appears.
When we were up front, I was having to it's legitimately blinding if you're up close.
Don't look directly at it. On the other hand, I feel the band gets completely lost in the screens during this song.
Yeah.
And there seems to be an effort not to spotlight the guys properly as to not shine light on the screens and ruin the effect.
Yeah.
It was also the first time I noticed the walls on the stage are screens too. Mm-hmm. And while sometimes the effect worked fine, Power Slave felt like a downgrade from the past. Seeing a pixelated sarcophagus behind them. Sarcophagi. It felt very, I don't know, Las Vegas to me. So Power Slave is a mixed bag.
Yeah, and on the risers, like, I was hit and miss on the risers, but I did really like them on some songs.
Yeah.
Especially from afar. Like, when you were up front, you could see, like, straight through them, so it didn't look as good. But from afar, those did look fine. Now for the ugly for me, personally. So, Rime of the Ancient Mariner is a masterclass in storytelling, and I think everybody probably has created their own version of it in their mind. It's a song that I hope that they would bring back for years. And when I saw, again, the ship's masts on the merch outside the venue, that was all the confirmation we needed to know that it was being played on this tour.
It was very talked
obvious.
about. Everybody was psyched to hear Rime.
And speaking of, like, they had 2 shirts covered in that merch booth that said, "Oh, this will be revealed after the show." We're like, well, if they're pretty much giving away like Seventh Son and Mariner,
well, they're showing us Rime.
What could possibly be hidden under these shirts? And it was the Aces High shirt when the other shirts had planes on them, so it's like we knew that they were playing Aces High.
The big surprise was Aces High.
And then Murders Under Roomwork, which I understand, that's the opening song, but it was just like, Aces, why are we showing off Mariner but hiding Aces High?
They're gonna be shocked when we play Aces High again.
Anyways, back to Mariner. Unfortunately, the way they presented it was very shocking to me, and I know this will sound very pathetic, but it made me cry and look away that first night because one of my big Maiden fears came true. What I felt like I witnessed that night was a music video created pretty heavy-handedly with generative AI visuals, without the band or company who produced the graphics for the screen outwardly saying, "We use generative AI in our production." I can't say that for a fact they did, and if they did, at what level, like how much was actually used, like did they create the images with it, did they just enhance the images with it, etc. But AI is absolutely everywhere right now. I feel like I can't escape it, and what I saw on the screens looked pretty damn suspect in my opinion. It has the same strange, uncanny feeling as many other generative images and videos I've seen, like some oddball stuff you'd see your auntie sharing on her Facebook page. I know that's how I described it the first night, but it's like, I feel like we've all had, like, unless you're an older member of somebody's family, maybe you're the one sending these to people, but, like, I feel like people our age commonly get, like, aunts, uncles, grandmas, stuff like that, send you something from Facebook that's clearly fake to your eyes.
And then you have to reply with, this isn't real, right?
Right. So it came across like something like that, like, "Oh, wow, look, dear, somebody made a music video for this song you liked," and it's just
it did seem like a fan-made thing you'd find on YouTube.
In fact, there is a fan-made AI video for Mariner on YouTube now that came out like a year ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, when I was looking up stuff to see if anybody else was saying anything about this, like,
did it look better than Maiden's?
I can't remember. I just remember clicking it, thinking that maybe this has something to do with it, and then saying, "Oh wait, this is like a year old. Somebody just made their own AI-generated Mariner."
So anybody can do it.
And actually, regarding this point I'm making, something interesting has happened since I started writing our script for this video.
Oh, this is a big one.
Yeah. So. There was a scene in this video that was particularly bad. The scene that played for the line, "The Mariner kills the bird of good omen," showed the Mariner readying his weapon to shoot the albatross. The only problem was the weapon, which was in the story, was a crossbow. It had no bow, no arrow, nothing. It was just a weird tube. Obviously, I'll be putting this on the screen so you're looking at it right now.
Clearly, it was supposed to be an arrow.
But the tube... It was just a tube. He had a tube in his arm.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even pointing at the bird. It was like, the bird's like way up here, as you can see, and he's down here pointing it. And
there's no crossbow or
there's
any
no
kind of
bow on it. Like, it's supposed to be a crossbow or at least a bow and arrow, and there's nothing on it. And things like that are what makes me feel like this wasn't created by human hands, because that's a really big oversight.
I know.
Like, really big.
I don't see how an artist could miss that.
Right, like, that's an integral part of the story. Like, the Mariner kills the bird of good omen, and they knew it was something having to do with an arrow, because the next scene was an arrow flying across the screen and hitting the bird. So it's like, what, is this fucking tube? Like, is this a blowgun or something that he's shooting the arrow out of?
It's just a mistake.
So everybody missed it. Like, everyone. Yeah. The band, the artists... Everybody that saw it.
Like, how many people had to review this?
And it still made it through. So that's my suspicions are my suspicions. I can't confirm whether they have or not, but I have my beliefs on what they used for this. That, and I'll put the image up again, but there was a rope coming down from the top of the screen, and as it hits his arm, nothing is under it. It just completely disappears. It's not there anymore. On June 12th, in Stockholm, Sweden, this scene changed. It showed the Mariner character now wearing a hat and wielding a crossbow, and the seagull's wings also now moved, but it seemed to have the same body as before. This wasn't a widespread controversy on social media. It was talked about on the forum and on Reddit from what I saw. Apparently a little bit on Facebook too, but I didn't see that. I don't know if it was just in like some private group or something that I wasn't part of. And with so little talk about it, the band still noticed. They still saw people talking about it and changed it. And it was fixed very soon on in the tour, like not that long after it was brought up. Which for me made it feel like there's some ability to make something very quickly since it was fixed this soon after it was brought up. The whole video felt off to me, but my two main suspects have been the scene I just mentioned, and then I'll pop this little one up on screen, a bit during the slow part where it was supposed to have the bodies of the crew sinking into the water, but it seems like they took lifeless lumps a bit too literally. It's just distorted blobs floating around in the water on a looping animation.
It does look beautiful.
I think Paul I sent that to, and he said that it just looked like cows sinking into the water.
Cows.
So I don't think there was any cows on the Mariner's boat. And a lot of people really enjoyed this animation. Like I heard and saw a lot of people online talking about it after the show, saying that it was really awesome to see it presented in such a way. And I'm glad that they did, but for me, my concerns about this potentially being created with AI have kind of ruined the experience of the song for me. As an artist, Maiden have been my biggest inspiration. Derek Riggs' work is my favorite in the heavy metal sphere, and the stage sets they used to put together really just blew your mind. Their eddies, especially the big fiberglass ones they've done in the past, make you look at them and think, I can't believe somebody made this. I've always sat down and wondered how complex the creative process of these shows must have been, and I feel like Maiden always prided themselves on this, and to see them do such a, in my opinion, like, tacky job of one of their biggest songs just kind of sucked for me personally.
It also made me think of all the artists and creatives that have partnered with Maiden over, so many years. The stage design, eddies, drums, props, drapes, and lighting have previously all been a huge group effort to bring to life. And the lack of crew running around and making everything work is very noticeable to me.
Yeah.
It feels too impersonal for a Maiden show, as if the very thing that made their shows unique was replaced with a play button.
And just one last touch on AI. It's just something I don't feel like I can escape in my everyday life. Every other commercial on TV is touting their new AI system. You have to, again, teach older members of your family that what they're sharing on their social media or sending to you isn't in fact real. And even walking around stores, like, I'm going to pop up a little picture here now that I saw this just a few days ago after coming home. Like, half the home decor you see around stores now is just ugly AI-generated imagery. And I feel like it's drowning out the human touch and using a database of human-made creations to fuel its work. I feel like Iron Maiden have always gone against the standard and done things their own way, and really seem to pride themselves on that. And for a very long time, they've been my escape, and seeing what I felt was AI imagery flashing across the screen for a highlight of their set suddenly made me feel like I couldn't really rely on them anymore. It would add insult to injury if this is true as well, because both Bruce and Adrian have shown negative feelings towards AI. Bruce, I'll show you here, has been seen wearing a Fuck AI t-shirt during a solo tour last year, which at the time I thought was awesome. I'm like, hell yeah, I feel that as an artist. I was glad to see him echoing the same sentiments, and, it makes you feel like they're safe from that.
Yeah.
There was a recent interview, I'll link it in the description. Adrian did an interview earlier this year speaking about AI-generated music, and it just makes me believe that if it is AI, maybe the band themselves had no idea, and hopefully it wasn't their intention to use it if they did.
Oh, and a little really weird detail is that when they came back with Aces High, Churchill's speech,
it's weird.
Like they sped it up.
It's not that they sped it up. It's like they cut the pauses between his lines. Like there's no building the tension or anything. It's just like, we shall go on to the end. We will fight in France. We will fight on the seas and oceans. We will fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We will defend our island. Whatever it's like there's no pauses like there usually is.
Right.
It's like they're just like, get through it, Winston. Get it over with.
Let's get this going.
So I think that covers most of our basic thoughts about the production. Trust me, we've been ranting with friends and everything for like 3 weeks about all this, so I'm trying to keep this as mentally stable as possible.
Mentally stable.
But yeah, now that that's mostly covered, I'd like to talk about the hype that they created around this tour.
This is a doozy. This is probably the most interesting part.
Yeah. So at the end of the Future Past tour, Bruce made a remark, and I'll insert the video now.
It's going to be really, really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to be doing stuff we've never ever done before. And it'll be a set list for the ages. So I'll see you there.
So Bruce mentions doing stuff we've never done before. And a lot of people assumed that the stuff was about the set list and they would be doing songs they've never played before. No. I had personally took stuff as things having to do with the stage show. And along with this, the band put out a press release with the following statement at the end of the Future Past tour. The tour marks 50 years since Steve Harris formed the band in late 1975, and to celebrate this, Maiden fans are promised a very special set list spanning the 9 studio albums from Iron Maiden to Fear of the Dark, with their most spectacular and elaborate stage show ever. With these 2 quotes in mind, it sounded like we would be getting something that, at the very least, rivaled what they did for the Legacy of the Beast tour, which, for me, has been and still is their most spectacular and elaborate stage show ever. Also, in my opinion, I don't think they should have stated 9 studio albums either, as it clearly let down a lot of people who wanted to and expected to hear something from No Prayer for the Dying.
So even though No Prayer and Fear of the Dark are regarded as lower points in their discography, there was still a certain novelty at the concept of hearing something from that forgotten era other than Fear of the Dark. With it feeling like this is the most likely and final chance to hear it.
Yeah.
And I can see why people were disappointed. I think they should have simply named it a Greatest Hits tour covering the 80s instead of specifically mentioning 9 albums.
Yeah, like I feel like they could have cut Fear of the Dark out for 1 tour and said from Iron Maiden to Seventh Son. And more on the hype building. On the day of the first night in Budapest, we went to the fan club photo meetup at Hero Square. Rod rolled up on his bike and told us all something along the lines of, "You aren't going to believe your eyes tonight." I had some real reservations about them using screens, as I said before, but with all these quotes in mind, I trust that they deliver something very classically Maiden. And that there would still be physical aspects of the production in tandem with the screens. Throughout the whole show, we just kept waiting and waiting for something to happen, and I feel like it never did. I will say, the new walk-on Eddie was pretty cool. I thought the face on him was a big upgrade from the face on the Cyborg Eddie that they had last year. But back to my last statement, there were actually 2 stage effects they tried on opening night that never returned again. I feel like I might have mentioned these in the wrap-up for the first night that we did, but at that point we didn't know that they wouldn't bring them back.
Right.
One was a mushroom cloud pyro that went off when it wasn't supposed to during 2 Minutes to Midnight. I don't remember if it was like after or like...
It was after the song.
Yes.
It was clearly meant to be like an explosion went on and then the screen like whited out.
Yeah.
And we think that there was supposed to be a boom with that, but it came like way late.
And the other I actually thought was pretty cool, and it was disappointing to see them not use it again, but during Iron Maiden, there was lightning bolts across the stormy sky, and they would spell out Iron Maiden in lightning, and every so often, one of the lightning bolts would hit the stage and send off a little spark of pyro. And I thought that was really interesting, and I'd never seen them do anything like that before. And they never brought it back, and to make matters worse, Bruce was on stage that first night telling the audience something along the lines of, "And if you think that was good, you ain't seen nothing yet." And people were speculating all the next day.
And he said that at the end of the show,
yes.
After Wasted Years.
Like, because there's 2 nights, people are like, "Oh my god, he's hinting at something." Like, are they gonna add some new songs? Like, is the set list changing? Or is it gonna be like a rotating set list now? Are they gonna add some stuff to the show that they didn't want to try the first night, like effects or like inflatables, anything? The second show came and went, and it was the exact same set list, and they took effects away from the show. So we really don't know what he was alluding to with that. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just, like I said, hype building for the sake of hype building.
Yeah.
Where I don't feel like it was like, what's the word?
No payoff.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems that Bruce is taking every opportunity to sell it and hype it up, but with no real payoff later on. We're all sitting wondering what the point of that was.
I kind of described it. I don't know if you guys have watched The Office, but the episode where like they're trying to save the company and Michael Scott is at that like convention, and you know the line better than I do.
Well, I don't know the line, but he's on the panel with all like the CEOs and the managers and everything, and he's just like 60 days, 60 points, and we get 60 points, 60 days. And the company's saved.
And everybody cheers. And then they go backstage like, why would you say that? We don't have a plan. We don't have 60 points. And he's like, oh, well, it felt good to get them excited. And I feel like that's just Bruce. Like, oh, you haven't seen anything yet. And they're just like, what do you mean?
But we just saw it.
What do you mean you haven't seen anything yet? It was like the same show minus 2 effects. Anyways, all in all, I definitely felt let down after hearing these statements preceding the tour and witnessing the show that we got. When I think elaborate and spectacular, things come to mind like the reveal for Revelations in 2018-19, pulling audible wows out of the audience, Seventh Son from Maiden England having a fiberglass Eddie, 2 lit candles, and Michael Kenny playing his faux pipe organ in a mask, and something like Bruce just removing Eddie's blood-soaked heart during the climax of the Book of Souls and throwing it into the crowd. For me, there wasn't a moment in the set that lived up to that statement, and I feel that the big features in the set were presented better on past tours, like Mariner and Phantom of the Opera and stuff.
Yeah, and it just felt like there was no physicality
No.
in the show. There was no just like...
No fun.
It felt like there was no point where Bruce had the audience in his hand, you know, like classically, you know, he's able to control a crowd. And it just felt like it was look at the screens, don't look at us.
And I will get to that. There's a point I will be making further into this about like Bruce having the audience in his hand. So we're going to be moving on to something that I don't want to have to talk about because I've seen lots of contention about it online. But if I'm going to be honest about my feelings about like why this tour missed the mark for me, I have to speak about this. And before I say anything, I want to give respect to Simon and the role he had to fill. He was presented with a very insane set list to have to learn, huge shoes to fill, and I'm sure he practiced so much to make this happen. And he's a good drummer, and he did the best job that he could do for the band, but I feel like there's a huge hole in the sound of Maiden now. The way the band sounds to me now is such a departure from the signature sound they've built for so long. Even post-stroke, you could still feel the love and care that Nico had for Iron Maiden, his playing. Take for a bump here or there, the more rare Clive songs sounded fine, like the first 3 songs, like we were really into on the first night.
No,
like I didn't
opening
know...
night, we were going ham for those 3 songs.
Yeah, we were going ham, thought they sounded all right. You know, the screens, though, they weren't my favorite thing I've ever seen. I was like, yeah, you know, that's pretty cool. So, you know, during those songs, I thought everything was okay. But when you get into, like, the Nico songs and the ones he's had, like, a big impact on over the last 4 decades, it just doesn't feel right.
It's obvious over the years that Nico kept developing his playing and his arrangements of many songs through the decades. He clearly put his heart and soul into the band, and his passion for the art of drumming was always on display. It's a big reason I feel that when they pulled out Power Slave, Mariner, Aces High, and many other classics in the 2000s, it was shocking to see that they were performing these songs even better than they were in the 80s. With the current setup, even with the other guys still performing at the highest level, it does unfortunately feel like a downgrade.
Yeah. You know, like, one of the first things I noticed is, like, during the show, you know, we and others, like, you want to drum along to the song sometimes, like, because it's so good. Like, Nico does, like, such a good job that you're just up there, like, I don't know how to drum, but I know when a cymbal hit's coming, I know when a snare whack is coming. But if you're drumming along to these songs, there's so many missing hits when you're like, I know this was there, but nothing went off when my hand went down like this. Specifically things like the hi-hat, the ride, and the splash cymbals. The sound of the new kit also feels more dim in comparison to what we had previously. A bit of a problem that I ran into, for example, was during Hallowed Be Thy Name. And to take a little detour, again, I mentioned that I would be getting into something about Bruce having the audience in his hand. Small detour was, I didn't really like the cheesy Mortal Kombat graphic Bruce running away from the CGI ghost. I thought it was pretty crazy that they did all that, removing Bruce from his position at the front of the stage to command the crowd, to put him in a cage to disappear and become a little character running across the screen.
And I don't know how they wanted us to feel
Yeah.
watching that, because, again, because that is so distracting, I have no memory of the solos.
Yeah.
So I can't even tell you how it went. But it was just, I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh, I'm supposed to be like, this is metal, or he gets to the top, and then he slow motion falls off the edge, and then he puffs into a blue fart. And I don't know.
Right,
And then it was like,
right.
okay, back to Hallowed then.
Right. And then he just appears at the top like, yeah, wasn't that cool? And I'm just like, where are you? You're supposed to be at the front of the stage. And he was completely missing. Like, that song just felt completely different between it not sounding like it had, like, I know that, like, a lot of people like Clive and they compare time to Clive and like, oh, this is how it was originally played. Well, for me, my favorite performance ever of Hallowed Be Thy Name is 2008, Somewhere Back in Time.
Yeah.
I just think it's amazing, and that's, like, my favorite version of hearing the song. So not only did it not sound like I'm used to, there was a weird CGI Bruce running around when he should have been at the front of the stage, like, doing his classic thing. That's, like, the classic Iron Maiden thing for Hallowed Be Thy Name.
Especially for a history tour. And we
Right.
haven't seen Hallowed in years now.
No.
And to get it in this form,
Yeah.
I don't understand the
Right.
thought process on that.
I don't know. But I know it was just a weird payoff. I don't know, like, what the vibe was supposed to be, because it's like, that's arguably your best song.
Yeah.
That's arguably people's favorite song and your best song, and I don't know. I don't know what that was. My whole point is that bit really bothers me. So back
to the drumming.
Back to the sound. So you don't want to see the screens if you don't like it, like I didn't like. And so you try to close your eyes and take in the music and ignore the rest so I don't have to see CGI Bruce running around. And you do that, and it doesn't even sound like you remember it.
No, it's obviously his personal choices
Yeah.
on how the kit sounds and what he likes, but I don't really know if it fits Iron Maiden. I don't feel like it does.
No.
The fact that he has no high toms, like both Clive and Nico had.
Yeah.
It seems like we don't hear any cymbals or hi-hat.
No, I
don't know
know.
if he's not hitting them hard or if it's not mic'd correctly. Another thing that bothers me is how low his toms are tuned to where any kind of roll that he goes around the kit, it kind of just sounds like he's hitting the same drum all the way down, and it's missing that dynamic feel that Nico brought with his kit.
A friend of ours described it as, I miss the Nico boom.
Yeah.
And I was
love
like,
that.
that's a quote right there, man.
Nico
I miss the
boom.
Nico boom. I obviously know there's never going to be another Nico. But I do believe there's drummers out there who would have filled the role and gave the songs the love they need to make them sound more like they're meant to. I've been a bit perplexed by Bruce's quote from a month or so ago. I think he was in LA and he was talking about how they went about picking Simon. And he, for some reason, felt the need to state that they didn't want a Nico clone. But it was also fine that he sounded like Clive.
Yeah.
So it was like, I don't know, just like saying that you don't want a Nico clone on a 50th anniversary tour.
Well, it's like, it's kind of saying, we don't want Nico's sound, but we do want Clive's sound.
Yeah.
And, I don't think there was, like, much thought put into
No,
what he said necessarily.
I just think that was the choice that they made, and so it was just like, no, we didn't want somebody that sounded like Nico. No.
Well,
No.
it just seems like they had already picked him
Yeah.
anyway, and they had
But
to
to
kind
say that at all, like, it's already made this, like, huge point of contention online where people are like, but the band said they didn't want a Nico clone. I'm like, yes, but it doesn't make sense because it's a 50th anniversary tour and he was in the band for 42 years.
And we'll get there. So after hearing that Simon has only played with the guys one time,
Yeah.
rehearsing the Future Past set to be a stand-in for Nico last year if he couldn't perform for whatever reason, I must admit I was worried because it does infer that nobody else was auditioned, and therefore little consideration to how different the songs would sound on a Greatest Hits tour coming up. There's a big difference between getting through an odd show if needed and being the next long-term drummer of Iron Maiden. I also feel that saying they don't want a Nico clone is a way to preemptively stop criticisms from being made. And to an extent, it has worked. So if you go anywhere online right now, if you find a small criticism in the comments, it will almost always be met with replies, and there'll be something like, if that's what you think, then you were never a real fan, or if you don't like it, then leave, or can you do better? Or most frequently, we don't want a Nico clone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I didn't realize Nico's sound and style was so unwanted in Iron Maiden.
I know, it just seems like everybody was ready to just, like, dump him off. Like, I don't know, like, reading all the comments and stuff on social media, like, if anybody's even just like, I miss Nico, they're like, get over it. The band wanted Simon. I'm like, oh my god. Like,
okay, obviously they wanted him.
They just miss Nico. Relax.
One of our friends in particular, who is a drummer, is even selling his ticket for London and canceling his trip. I can't help but feel that if Bruce had never made that statement and they had in fact hired somebody that can deliver a performance with all the bells and whistles, the entire fan base would be singing his praises and would be fully on board.
Yeah, and I think we had somebody comment on our Budapest video saying that they were echoing similar sentiments that we felt, and they had like 10 more shows they were supposed to do and sold their tickets and went home.
It was...
Like, that's...
Well, here's the thing, is every tour we've done, and it's a good handful of tours we've seen now, and everybody that we meet on tour, all they want to do is add more shows.
Yeah.
It's like an addiction.
Yeah.
This is the first tour we ran into where everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people we've talked to is saying, we're going to do less shows now.
Yeah.
And
I'm one of them. I'm not going to do as much next year. It's basically just going to be, like, destinations that I want to see and time spent with friends. You know, that said, with the we don't want to sound like Nico thing, or we don't want a drummer that sounds like Nico, I could understand if they said they're going to be going into the studio, writing new music, and doing a new album tour, and wanted to give the guy a chance to make his own mark on the band, like everyone else that's joined, like Blaze and Yannick and Nico, even, from Clive. You know, everyone else has joined later on in the band's history. But this is a 50th anniversary tour. Like, Nico made a mark on 6 of the 9 albums, and arguably gave most of the songs in that setlist a massive driving force. For a history tour, I don't think it was a good move to depart so far from the sound that's been crafted over this many years. And that said, the rest of the band really do sound just as good as ever. Davey and Adrian are absolutely killing it.
That's been a huge plus.
Yes.
Adrian is super animated, and he's pulled out his Lato guitars, which he looks very proud of. And again, they do such a good job. Yeah,
I mean, the last 3 shows we did, we tried to get as close as possible to just be like, I don't want to watch the iPad screens, I want to watch the band.
Watch the guys.
And so those last 3 shows was basically just me getting lost in Dave and Adrian's playing.
Yeah.
So great job, guys. Love what you're doing.
Yep.
And then Bruce's screams during Wrathchild and Killers were just, like, incredible.
Oh, my God. It's like... It seems like... It feels like he hasn't done many screams over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But these are, like, his most powerful we've seen in a very long time on Killers, and I love it.
So, yeah, he's doing a great job as well.
Yeah.
So, it's like, it's not like I'm like, oh, the band just sucks now. I'm like, they sound great, but something just doesn't feel right.
There's a fundamental change in the songs we know and love.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to ignore for us.
Yeah, because again, it's like, we don't like the screens. That first night, James like, I'm trying to close my eyes and take in the music, and it doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there was just so much I processed during this tour, and I know it seems dramatic again. Maybe I'm just a dramatic person, but I feel like in a way I've lost a big part of the experience I love between all the big changes. It just doesn't feel the same for me. It was to the point that I was actually looking at how much it would cost to fly home from Budapest after those shows, but I was, again, being dramatic, so my friends kind of pulled me out of that, and were like, oh, but we have so many cool places to go see, and we're all here, so it's like, yeah, screw all the rest. I'm staying. I'm going to Norway. I'm seeing my friends. But yeah, luckily having the friends and the travel kept me around, and I had a much better time at the following 3 shows.
Yeah.
And the trip ended up being like my favorite trip I've ever done, so very, very happy with it overall. You know, I
Yeah.
might not have been so happy with the tour, but I'm really glad that I got this experience, and I did have a good time at the last 3 shows. The
Yeah.
first 2 was just me there, like, having a crisis, and then the second night just being like, where did it go wrong?
Well, the first 2 shows we saw from further back, so it just didn't feel like we even saw the guys.
Well, again, they
So-
got lost in the screen, so it just felt like I watched, like, a movie or something.
But when we saw them, and we were lucky enough to get Barrier in
Norway.
and funny enough, that was an outdoor stadium, and the first time we got to see one of those shows where it's light for the entire show, and we had a fantastic time.
Yeah.
And I think we can attribute some of that fact to it was light out, so the screens didn't cover them up. Like
It's like, oh, you can't hide. I can see you.
it wasn't backlit. So there was actual light on the guys, and we could just watch them and ignore whatever.
And Adrian had the best, like...
Yeah, it was cold.
Like, it was like crushed velvet red long sleeve. I'll pop up a picture. He looked great. I loved it.
He loves fashion.
Oh yeah, he like his little hat he wears for Smith and Cotson. Great, love it. But again, we made a point to be close to the stage those last 3 shows, and I felt like I could focus on the band, try to ignore the production, and it really did help me enjoy it. So if you think the screens will bother you in the way that they bothered me, I highly recommend just get into the venue and get up there and get as close as you can to watch the guys.
Yep.
Again, I'm really sorry to, like, present a video with, like, so many negatives in it, because I know we're always such just, like, a bullshit fun page, like, with our speculating and our love of the band. Obviously, I do love the band. I wouldn't make this Odyssey-length video explaining my feelings on a tour if I didn't love and care about the band.
I think we're just processing like how surprising it was to be disappointed.
Yeah.
And
Because it's never happened to me on this level before.
no.
Ever. Like, my biggest thing was that they didn't play the Parchment on the Future Past tour. Like, that's been my biggest disappointment. Even then, I'm just like, oh my god, they played Caught Somewhere in Time. It's amazing.
Yep.
I know we'll very likely be receiving some angry comments and arguments, but I had to get all of this off my chest. We spoke to a lot of people on the road who shared the same sentiments, so I at least feel a little bit less like I'm just getting old and bitter. And we actually met a younger fan in Stavanger. If you're watching, hello, Matthias. I believe that was your name. He was 15, and it was his first Maiden show, and he said he was really disappointed in the screens and had also hoped similarly that it would be a production on the level of Legacy of the Beast. And I really felt for him because I was the same age as him when I saw my first show.
Yeah, and you got the classic Maiden stage. There's definitely been a lot of conversation amongst diehard fans on this tour about cutting down on shows or simply hoping things change.
Yeah.
For those of you confused by our thoughts, you are totally entitled to your opinion. And if you love it, I want you to love it with your whole heart. We have no right to tell you what to enjoy.
Absolutely. I do hope that anybody who's seeing this tour doesn't feel the way that I have, because I would have loved to have still enjoyed it the same way that I always have and still had that same Maiden feeling I love, but it's just not something that I can lie about and pretend that I love.
No, at the end of the day, you know, it's very common to, no matter your feelings on YouTube, you still toe the line and you say what you have to say, but
I can't.
we just can't do it.
We
We just can't do it.
And despite having a great time at most of the shows that I saw, I just couldn't help but feel like things have changed so much in just like 1 year, like 6 months basically, like from the end of Future Past to now. I just feel like things are just completely different. And quite a few people I spoke to echoed the same sentiment.
I mean, we lost Nico.
Screens. No Nico. Screens.
No props, no eddies.
No props, no Eddie. Like,
no light show.
like, I feel like as much as people will love the set list, I feel like, you know, they've always thrown like one big wow, that's a surprise in the set list.
Yeah, and it's we noticed that every song on the set list this time, this is the first retro tour where they haven't pulled out a song from back in the day for the first time.
Yeah, that has been a very long time since they've done.
Right, and like I said earlier, you know, it seems kind of conclusive that Nico finished on the last retro tour that needed to happen, and they played their new album material,
Yeah.
and, you know, I don't know what to expect in the future, but I'm not looking forward to this trajectory continuing in this direction, but who knows what'll happen. At the end of the day, I want to ride this band out to the end.
Of course. I've always said this, but it's just like, okay, but they've never done this before. So if they continue doing things like this, I don't know if I can. Don't go where I can't follow, as Samwise Gamgee once said.
Because at the end of the day, and we haven't said this, is every band uses screens.
Yeah.
And Maiden's set and stage production and the way they do things has always been very unique. They are the top of the mountain for that idea, and there's been a few bands that have followed in their footsteps.
Yeah.
That do, and they'll utilize screens and physical props, and they'll do the best they can with it.
Yeah.
But Maiden doing it is kind of disheartening because, especially at 50 years, hey, we're going to celebrate 50 years of everything Maiden, and to do something completely different than what Maiden does, it feels kind of off-putting.
Yeah. And it's like, I searched for it for like an hour yesterday. I know that there's an interview somewhere where Bruce speaks on how proud they are of their stage sets and that they don't use screens. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it, but I'm like, I'm sure that it's out there.
But, you know, we come up with some general... So we looked at lots of different bits of new technology.
Like
new
what?
technology. Well, we looked at...
Holograms and...
No, we've always looked at screens.
Yeah.
As in, you know, the backlit screens, you know, we've always looked at those, and we've always rejected them.
Okay.
And we looked very carefully at them. We looked long and hard and went, you know, but, you know, my eyes get tired staring at my little, you know, tablet after, you know, half an hour or 45 minutes. I really don't like looking at a gigantic iPhone on stage.
No.
And I just think it hurts, you know, and I
So
think
it's for medical reasons.
no, I just think it diminishes, you know, the spectacle, unless you've really got something amazing you want to put on that screen. And the trouble is, once you've got the screen, you're stuck with it.
You are.
You know, you go, oh God, you know, what do we do with it now? And the answer is, you just end up showing a backdrop, but it's a backdrop that's really, you know, just gets in the way, because your eyes, I don't think your eyes really like looking at that. And it changes the focus. The focus is
of course.
still got to be on the musicians for me, you know.
But it's like, I know that they've spoken in the past on being really proud of doing things the way that they do.
And they should be proud of it, because it's an amazing legacy, and I just simply want to see it continue.
Yeah. So again, apologies for putting out a negative video, but the tour's over for me, and we'll likely only do a wrap-up video with Logan once he's come back from his shows. I think he's doing Arnhem and Frankfurt, so like sometime next month. And I know he wants to get his opinion out there too after he's seen the show, because, you know, he wants to see it in person before he fully judges it. I do have some half-written scripts and game videos to get editing, so I promise we'll be back to the usual fun very soon. If any major changes come to the tour, I will cover it. Otherwise, I want to keep it to this as to not drag down anybody else's mood on tour. I think you should go out, see it, have fun. If you totally loved it, please let me know in the comments. And same if you hated it. Tell me why either way. Just be respectful to each other in the comments. Now, I did ask for questions on my Instagram last week, and I'm sure I answered some of them already in this video, but I saved some that didn't really get answered, and I thought it would just be a fun way to end the video, to do a little Q&A with a handful of the questions. So don't feel sad if your question didn't get picked. I only picked a certain amount because I knew that this video would be quite long already. Let's start with, do the LED screens add to the show more than the usual backdrops? I think you can tell from our video that no, I personally don't believe they do.
No, I don't think they do. I think that it's the physicality of a full Maiden stage that gives Maiden their identity.
Yes.
In a live setting. And I think screens, for some reason, it feels like you're seeing a different band playing Maiden songs.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to describe that, but to me, that's how it feels. Like, I love that they've always done the drapes and the art and everything. So,
next question: did you go to the Eddie dive bars? If yes, how was it? Unfortunately, there wasn't a single Eddie's Dive Bar for any of our shows that we booked.
It's like they tracked us and were like, "What shows are they doing? Okay, we're not going to do it for those."
This would be great for the vlog. Let's not give it to them.
We would have loved to go to one.
They looked great. I saw lots of photos and videos from the one in Stockholm, and it looked fantastic. So if you're going to any of these shows and there's an Eddie's Dive Bar location there, go, because it looked amazing, and I would have loved to have gone. What is the biggest disappointment of the tour for you? Sorry for the negative question.
It's okay.
I don't even know. I don't know what's more disappointing. I feel like had the band got somebody that sounded closer to the Maiden sound on drums, that I would have been able to just turn my face away from those screens and just yell with my friends and enjoy the songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That is a very interesting question, because it's very close, but I think that...
Well, it's kind of asking the question of what bothered you more, the changes to the show or the changes to the sound of the band.
Probably the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I probably agree, but also that Mariner video needs to go.
Yeah. It's equal. Because of that, it makes it kind of equal of
The Mariner video is particularly bad in our opinion, so.
With Simon, is the band playing faster on the songs compared with Nico's last tour?
I don't really notice, but also they're not playing many songs that were on that.
Well, it's
that
consider
tour.
Trooper, consider Wasted Years, Fear of the Dark.
Doesn't really feel different to me.
No, it doesn't feel any faster.
No.
You were asked to swap 3 songs in the set list for the second leg of the tour. What would they be?
Or shall I do mine and then you do yours?
I'm sure they'll be very similar.
Probably not. So we're gonna go straight to the encore.
Yeah.
I can go without Aces High. I can go without Fear of the Dark for one tour, and I can go without Wasted Years closing the set.
Yeah.
So, how about first encore song, Be Quick or Be Dead. Second encore song, Die With Your Boots song. Final song. Oh, we haven't had a No Prayer. Final song, Tail Gunner.
That would be a weird way to close the set.
And Kind of Cool, because we've got the most kind of boring choice of Wasted Years again, so let's just go completely in the other direction and have Tail Gunner.
I would change those same 3 songs, I think. I think I'd make the first encore song Moonchild.
Oh.
Yeah. Then, like you, I would love to have heard Be Quick or Be Dead. Not Be Quick or Be Dead. Die With Your Boots On. Sorry. There's B's and D's in both of those songs.
B's and D's.
B's and D's.
Sorry.
Die With Your Boots On. And then, closing song, I'm going to do the classic Captain Harris and say...
You know what's coming.
From Here
Say
to
it with her.
Eternity. Because hell ain't a bad place.
That's right.
Okay. Taking a friend to his first ever Maiden concert in Zurich. Any tips for first-timers hoping to win first to the barrier? Things have actually gotten pretty relaxed in recent years. If you win first to the barrier, you don't have to go wait. Just show up at 5 when you're meant to. They come out, they wristband you, they give you a random number.
They'll send you the meeting point through an email, and you just show up at the time it says, and you'll get a random number and be led down.
It's very easy, very low stress compared to how it used to be. So if you win, there's no worries. You just get handed a number, you line up, you go down the way it's meant to be.
Yep.
And if you don't, we did a couple shows this tour where it's you get in line to try to get up close. I got in line for Budapest Night 1 because I wanted to get on that little barricade thing. And we could have gotten very close.
Yeah.
We could have gotten very close had we wanted to that night. Probably 3rd row. So, just show up depending on how popular you think the show will be. Couple hours before the show. And then go in and go run up and get you a spot.
Yeah.
Which is the most enjoyable part of the whole show and your favorite song?
Killers.
First 3 songs, Killers.
Killers is the best song.
Yeah.
For me in the whole show.
Same here. Which is crazy because I've been begging for Mariner for a decade.
So, literally every year we're just I hope they bring Ryan back. I hope they bring Ryan back.
Now I'm take it away from me.
No thanks.
Have you gotten used to the screens yet? I'm still not sure how I feel about them yet. No, and I don't think I ever will. Unless they do a show very similar to those first 3 songs, then I could find it.
Was that question saying they don't know how they feel about it yet?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I know how I feel about it, and it's mostly not great.
No. Better than the Future Past tour? No, in fact, this is my least favorite Maiden tour I've ever seen. What's the overall feeling considering the new stage, drummer, set list, and so on?
Everything we just said.
Oh, apathy? I don't know. I don't know a good word for it, but I'm not excited. That's all.
I can't think of the right word to
No.
describe it. It's just kind of
Melancholy,
yeah.
I think. Like, I still have a good time, but it's just, I don't know, it's not the same.
It's the feeling that it may never feel the same again.
Yeah, like they've changed permanently.
Yeah.
Do you think the Run for Your Lives tour was worth the hype?
No.
Agreed. How did you find Adrian's playing style? More dedicated to the songs, I think. That was them, not me.
Yeah, I did notice that he's playing certain songs, like the Number of the Beast solo. He's playing it much more close to the album version. And I can't think of any others specifically, but he's definitely
killing it.
He's just killing it, as he always
It's funny.
does.
I've seen people saying that, like, this tour is really showcasing Davey and his solos and his playing. I'm like, last year was, like, the Adrian showcase, and this year is, like, the Dave Murray showcase.
Dave gets to do his Power Slave solo and his Seventh Son solos.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Do you expect this to be the future of Iron Maiden tours, or physical practical sets return? I don't know how many tours are left. I would hope in my heart that they brought it back, but I don't believe they will. I think that this is it.
If I were to bet money on it, I would say that this is going to be it
Going
from now
forward,
on.
yeah. Would you book 7 gigs if you know what you know now? Production, set list, etc. Well, I didn't book 7 gigs. I booked 5 gigs.
And we did them all.
I probably would have cut it off at Norway had I known what I know now.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't have fun at Copenhagen, but I just feel like this is like, it's weird. This is the first tour where I felt like I don't need to do any more shows this year. Like, I was ready to go home. I'd seen it enough. But every other tour, I'm like, man.
Wish I could have done more.
I know. It was like, I think 2019, we did 11 shows, and it's still just like, man, it would have been cool to do a couple more shows.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this was the first time where I really felt like that was good enough.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but... What are t-shirt prices in the different countries?
Oh,
expensive, man.
prices.
I didn't even get myself any merch this year. A, just because I was feeling so down, and B, just because it's like I did the conversion on the prices in Hungary, and it was like $56 for most t-shirts, and then the freaking event shirts for like $10 more than the normal shirts.
$65 USD.
I just can't. This is where it like cuts off for me. Like, I can't spend that kind of money on a t-shirt. It would have to be the best shirt I've ever seen for me to be like, well, I have to buy it.
I mean, they're raking in the money from shirts, and because people are still buying them.
Yeah.
So all we can expect is every year beyond this they go up in price.
Yeah, so they're a lot of money. I don't know how much to expect them to be in the U.S., but I mean, this was Budapest. Like, usually location will determine prices. Like, South America, the prices will tend to be a bit lower than they are in like the U.S. and stuff. But this was Hungary and Slovakia, and they were still like coming out to like $56. Has your opinion on the stage production changed after seeing it a couple of times? Well, I mean, after the shock wore off, that second night, I got to like observe everything.
We have to
and, like,
analyze it.
See where it went wrong, and I like what I said in the video is pretty much how I feel. Like, first 3 songs I wish set the standard, and then the rest of the set was just like, you know, Trooper, Wasted Years, borderline Power Slave was like acceptable, and then the rest of it, especially Mariner, was just like, do the LED screens work in the stadiums, or are they better in a closed basketball arena? I actually, as we said, personally liked it a bit better out in the daylight.
But that's because they're not as, like, distracting.
So it's not about the screens.
Yeah.
It's literally, like, it was about, I can see the band.
So basically, the screens will look better inside.
Yeah.
But if you want to see the band, then you want to be outside with light.
Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10, how distracting are those stupid LED screens?
Oh, wow.
Depending on song.
If it's like the music video ones, it's a 10.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like you said, you didn't even remember seeing Aces High.
Nope. No, they're like, oh, did you hear Bruce struggle on that one chorus? I was like, nope.
Your iPad baby.
No,
like.
I was just drooling off like, plane.
But yeah, no, I'd say anywhere between a 6 and a 10, depending on song.
Yes.
What do you guys think about not having an Eddie inflatable anymore? Big sad.
Yeah, it's just...
As I said, this was one of my main worries when I saw they were using screens. And they can have the excuse of we couldn't fit it with the screens all you want. But guess what? Sabaton has screens, and they have a giant tank with a drum kit on top of it, suspended by cables in front of a screen. And In Flames has a big inflatable head of their mascot in front of their screens.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think they could have done it, and I don't like the big Shrek Eddie. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but I think it was Excision at one of the EDM shows had a big Shrek that was basically doing the same thing as the Eddie.
It's
and that's what
exactly
everybody's
the
been
same.
comparing us to. If I have a clip, I'll put it up here.
It's not what we want to see from Maiden. Like,
No.
we don't want to see things that EDM festivals are doing and say, oh, Maiden should do that.
I feel like he comes up so fast. Like, the classic thing is like, he comes up slowly, like, during the part when they start getting back into the song, and then his full reveal is when, like, it hits and they're back into it. This is, there's nothing going on for that, and then he just springs forward like a Five Nights at Freddy jump scare.
Yeah.
So...
And the longer it stays on screen, the more kind of uncomfortable it gets.
Well, he's got this animation loop after he's done his whole thing, where he's just like, again, I mentioned this thing to everybody, but he's just like...
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, Eddie, you can stop now. So, no, I don't like not having inflatables. And even with the inflatables, I miss the big fiberglass Eddies. But I know that was probably too difficult to cart around.
Remember the Final Frontier Eddie head with the fingers that came over the top?
Yes.
Like, just
we didn't get
amazing.
that at our show, though. They were too cheap to bring that to Florida.
Yeah, big disappointment.
But it was on En Vivo. That's all that matters to me. Right. Do you think that this current tour will link to the next tour, Blaze Era onwards? Absolutely not. No way. They're not going to do that. And I don't know that I would want them to do that, especially if they keep Simon. I don't think I want to hear, like, Simon's take on the post-reunion material, because that's where I think, like, Nico was in his, like, peak.
I think Nico's sound was so developed during those, like, especially first three post-reunion albums that I seriously cannot imagine Simon playing like Ghost of the Navigator or No More Lies or anything like that.
So I expressed sadness before about, like, oh, I don't think they're ever going to do these songs now. And I was like, I don't know if I want to hear them in that form.
Yeah,
you know?
I think they're gonna be left behind now anyway.
Yeah, but no, I don't think it will. I have no idea what's next. I don't know if they'll do a new album tour. If this tour will be it, if they'll do another history tour after this, if they'll extend this tour, like...
How about another 80s retro tour?
No idea. What do you guys think of the management deleting most of the videos on the tour on YouTube?
Holy shit.
Yeah, so good thing we follow the rules like good little fans, because y'all wouldn't have been seeing any of our vlogs.
I mean, you guys know that previous years we would film the band and put it in our vlogs.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, we're going to respect their wishes, and we didn't film a single thing from them on stage. And turns out, if we would have...
There would be no vlogs.
There would have been no vlogs, because they probably would have been shut down.
Yeah, so... what do I think about it? I mean, I think it's their right to do it. Like, I don't know what the basis for deleting them
criteria,
is. Yeah,
I
what's the
don't.
criteria for deleting them?
So-
I know that, like, there's a lot of people who can't afford to go see Maiden, and this is how they get to experience them, by watching these shows on YouTube and stuff.
And Maiden nerds, like, and I'm guilty of this too, but we do like to look up, like, just a little bit of each show and just see how things are progressing. And it seems like they're trying to kind of stop that.
Right, like I would have never, like, known that the Mariner scene changed without being able to look up that video of Stockholm.
Yeah, and that's it. Again, we're not just going to see the shows. We're kind of on board for the full story of the tour, and it feels like that's been pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, so it's their music, it's their business, it's their choice, but, you know, in a way, it is a little sad for some fans who that's how they experience the shows, but life goes on.
Yeah.
What do you think of Yannick's takes on guitar solos, and did he play enough of them?
I mean, I can't think of anything he did other than his one on Hallowed and his one on Fear of the Dark.
He's doing fine. He's doing his Yannick thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's
I
really
think
different.
he got enough. Like, I was more entranced by Dave and Adrian's solos, to be fair, so...
Yeah, I mean, maybe he had one on, like, Killers? I don't know. I think there was one song where he took an Adrian solo or something, and it didn't bother me.
Yeah. What song do you think is missing from the set list? Something from No Prayer?
Something from No Prayer, yeah.
Anything, something, I don't know. And this is the last one. This isn't really a question more than it is a statement. Fuck Aces High in the set list. I'm so tired of it.
And I never thought I would think that of that song, because, I mean, I love that song.
Anyways, that's it for the questions, so that's pretty much it for the video. I know you had a little article piece you wanted to read.
Yeah, funny enough, I found an article, or somebody was interviewing Bruce just last year. This was just last May. And they were talking to Bruce about like the significance of Eddie and how Bruce gets totally lost in the music while performing with Maiden, and he hates it when the crowd distracts him and he has to come out of the bubble and yell at them and tell them they're bad people. I'm just kidding. But in that article, the person that wrote this piece about an Iron Maiden show and what makes it so unique. And we found it really interesting that just 1 year later, all of a sudden, this isn't relevant anymore.
Yeah.
So they wrote, an Iron Maiden show is more of a theatrical performance than a gig. It has elaborate stage sets which take you out of your normal life and put you in another place and time. Their songs, rich in damnation and melodrama, are stories of myth, history, war, and adventure. Historically, the band have always performed in front of backdrops and drapes rather than video screens. This forces the audience to focus their attention on the performance rather than zone out gazing at a giant telly in the background. The ritual performance builds to the moment when the giant Eddie rises up from the back of the stage. At that moment, Eddie rises up inside the audience as well. They have become the spirit of the music. This is a rare magical ritual indeed, in that it reliably works. That was 1 year ago.
Yeah. They probably said that, and the band's just like, we got screens. We have a giant telly now. But yeah, so sorry to make a video that's not just like, wee, Iron Maiden, I'm so excited about them. But I'm very passionate. I have a lot of feelings about them. And I still love them. And I still love their history and like talking about them and coming up with all my games. I'm gonna do so many like story behind the song videos. I don't know what my future going forward is like seeing them. Definitely cutting down on shows, but I guess we'll see. Like they changed the Mariner bird. Like I don't know what they could change in the future. Like we'll see. I have to see what they do.
At the end of the day, we've seen them for years and years do a certain standard of show. And all of a sudden, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And we're going to react accordingly.
Yeah. So, had fun. Was a little bit disappointed. A lot disappointed, but there was disappointment. There was fun. Definitely my most emotional tour to date.
Yeah. And we know how good they can be. And all we want
and
is...
They are that good.
Yeah, but we want the show to reflect that. We want their sound to reflect that.
Yeah.
And that's all, really. But again, love
Maybe
Maiden.
you loved it, and I want to know down in the comments. I genuinely want to know what everybody thought about this tour, respectfully. Don't be like these people on Facebook yelling at each other. We're in the Captain Harris comments. We're being nice to each other. We're having respectful conversation, whether you liked it or not. And yeah. So that's it. I mean, oh God, this video is like an hour and 42 minutes at this point. So we're wrapping it. We're cutting it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to our Patreon members for supporting us. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.